maybe that's the time to get Steve Baker to come in. Or,
Well, no, I like doing it with you.
Okay.
So the question now is, what? Let's see here. What other Thursdays were you not in?
I'm not going to be around this Thursday or next Thursday. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not going to be around next Thursday or the Thursday after that.
Okay, so nothing on the 28th. Okay, and you're also not thinking on Thursday the 4th.
Yeah. Trying to.
Okay, so when?
The 11th, but I mean, we could do something. We could actually do something on the Monday of next week.
Not the 25th, but the 1st.
Yeah, let me think of that. We could do Monday next week. I got to take my daughter up to the camp on Monday. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Could do,
I might be out.
Tuesday we could do. Next Tuesday. Tuesday would work.
You're talking about not next Tuesday, but the
No, next Tuesday.
next Tuesday, 26th.
Next Tuesday would work. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'll probably be good for me.
Why don't you? Let's do that and remind me to just send me an email or a text and remind me that'll work. Yeah, and I'll try to get. I should be able to get somebody.
Okay, so that would be for the 6th show.
Yeah.
For August 6th show.
Sorry about that.
No, I didn't say that. Hey, listen, I have to do it once in a while too. What time? Can we do early?
2:30. Is that a good time for you?
Yeah, let's do 2:30.
Okay. My daughter's so funny. She had me hold the cat the other day and wanted to take a picture of me. So look, Bruce and the cat. The cat, of course, loves all the attention.
Of course. So that'll be Tuesday.
See, this is what it's kind of been like at Rodeo Beach. This is what it looks like. Pretty much like, yeah, it's small, but it's kind of, you can have fun.
That's just
Yeah.
especially with a hand ski, right?
Yeah. Just the right size for me.
Yeah.
It's funny, yesterday I was out there, I got out there about 4, and there were 3 other guys in the water, and within 5 minutes after I got out there, all of them were gone. I was out there by myself. And well, this is kind of nice. I'm by myself. All of a sudden, 2 guys show up. Okay, that's all right. Then all of a sudden, I look out and I see 3 more guys on the right at the water's edge getting ready to come in. Okay, there's 6 of us. Then all of a sudden, there's 4 more guys coming in, and then there's another 5 coming in. By the time I got out of the water, there were 16 guys in the water. All these young kids, and they were all, they all seem to know each other. It's fun though that the kids that go out there are such nice young guys. They're just always really easygoing, mellow.
I like that.
With rare exception. Surfers are just the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. They're happy because they're in the water.
They're not in school.
They're not in school. They're not working.
All right. So we want to talk mostly about the Olympics.
Yeah, let's start about the Olympics. The Olympics is coming up, and there's a lot of interesting little side stories here, and at the Olympic basketball team. And,
all right.
That's possibly that the Russians aren't there. Of course, we'll be. I guess we have to kind of preface our comments by saying, we're recording this before the IAAF has made their decision, which was supposed to be later today. Let me see if that would be made today. Let's see what happens. Hang on a second. Google this real quick and see if I can get a little update. Russia. Okay, here we go. Russia fails to overturn athlete ban. Yeah. Okay, then we can talk about that in a second here. I'll get the story. Yeah, looks like they're not going to. Russian track and field athletes will remain banned from the Olympics following claims the country ran a state-sponsored doping program. The Russian Olympic Committee and 68 athletes attempted to overturn the suspension implemented by the body that governs the world athletes. But the Court of Arbitration has ruled that it can stand. A handful of Russian athletes could still compete as neutrals, which start in the games. Doping evidence in track and field is getting really bad. If you cheat or against the rules, it'll scare a lot of people. Russian pole vaulter Yelena Izanbayaneva, one of 68 to file appeals, said the ruling was a blatant political order. While the Russian Foreign Ministry called it a crime against sport. Okay, there you go. So we can kind of get into that. That's a big story.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Speak for the July 30th show.
Okay.
Welcome, you're listening to Sports Econ 101. You know our show. It's where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime radio sports personality. Today's show, we don't have a guest this week either, so it's mano-y-mano. We're going to mostly talk about the Olympics, and we're also going to ask sports trivia questions at each commercial break. This time we're back into baseball, so baseball trivia questions. And looking at this, some of these are kind of hard.
Oh, most of them,
even for you.
You've thrown some pretty good curveballs at me lately, you know. Yeah. It's okay. I'll sit on that curveball and hit it. I'll pull it down the line. I'll try anyway.
And if it's the Polo Grounds was like 505 from center, but
down the lines it's like 298. Yeah, it's crazy.
Even I could hit those.
You could.
All right, and the first email with the correct answer to these questions is going to receive a free vacation to the Lighthouse Resort and Marina. Those vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse. And their only request is a $100 clean fee to cover the housekeeping expenses. Check them out at lighthouseresortandmarina.com. Again, we want to mention paintball. If you've never played paintball, it's a lot of fun. Kind of reminds you of what it would be like to be in a war. without
all the gore and the noise.
No, but if you've ever been hit with a paintball, it hurts.
It hurts. Yeah.
but it's fun though.
Yeah.
So if you go to Sports Econ 101, our website, and click on the paintball icon, you'll actually get 85% off of many paintball venues around the country. So go ahead and check that out. Just click on the icon and follow the instructions. Pretty easy. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 8% secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. You got to check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. I've had money with them now for 3 years, and they exactly are paying a little bit over 8%, which is funny because what I earn in a month, most people don't even earn in a year at the bank.
Wow.
So check them out again at pacificprivatemoney.com. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. Bruce and I will be right back. Okay. First little guy out of the way. Get to your business show after this one.
Yeah. Oh boy, you're a busy guy.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. And Bruce, today we're going to start talking about the Olympics.
Yeah, the Olympics, there's a lot of problems logistically that are looming for the athletes and for the venues in Rio. I mean, the stories have been well chronicled. The Zika virus, the crime, just a lot of potential headaches. And now, compounding all this is the fact that Russia's entire track and field team has been banned because of a vast doping program that has affected 28 summer and winter games. Now, the athletes appealed to the Court of Arbitration in Switzerland, and they upheld the ruling by the IAAF, which means that some of the greats like Yelena Ishbayevna, who was I don't know if that's pronunciation. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. Ishbayeva, 2012 Olympic pole vault champion, is not going to be able to compete. One of the long jumpers, Ekaterina Konova, said that, if this ruling went against her team, that she'd cry. I'm sure she's crying now. And one of the other top athletes said, "I'm going to go out and get drunk because I'm going to be so upset about it."
Well, if she's crying, then let her back in.
Yeah.
Track and field, is that the only not boxing or weightlifting?
Well, that's a good question. I thought it was the entire team, but I'm being led to believe that there's still a possibility of the other athletes competing. This is mostly track and field athletes, and I think it's something that apparently has been going on for a long time. You remember the East Germans had a dubious history back in the 1960s and 70s of a lot of their women athletes who were using steroids, and now the kind of dope that or performance-enhancing drugs that athletes use are much more subtle, but are just as easy sometimes to detect. So it's really a shame. This will be the first time since, I guess, 1984 that we will not see top Russian track and field competitors. That was because the Russians, the Soviets, they were called at the time, boycotted the '84 games.
Because we boycotted the '80.
Because we boycotted the '80 in reaction to the invasion of Afghanistan. Yeah. So it's a real shame. Everybody is always looking for that shortcut, and I think you see it more in track and field because, it's just that kind of those sports sort of depend on a matter of inches, a matter of pounds, a matter of seconds, and a little extra boost can make a difference. And the Russians, apparently, this has been going on way too long, and it's finally come home to roost. It's really a shame. It really is.
Go back to the '80 Olympics. I mean, it was one thing when you had a world war during World War II, and they I guess it was the 41 and the 45 ones.
Well, the 30, 40, and 44 were not done yet.
But I remember when Carter had made the announcement that we were going to compete, and the first thing I thought was, the poor athletes. They trained for all this time, and then a political issue.
It was a mistake. It was a terrible mistake, and it cost, I think, the fans in 1980 and '84 some great potential, dramatic stories. It's too bad when politics and athletics get in the way of each other. In this case, I think it's clear that the Russians needed more than a slap on the wrist. They weren't apparently paying enough attention, and I guess there are a couple of athletes that one of them was a whistleblower. Her name is Yulia Stepnova, and she is Florida-based, and she's a long jumper, and she can actually compete as a neutral. So if she wins a gold medal, who are they going to? What music are they going to play? I mean, she can probably pick her own favorite song. But she apparently has been getting some death threats online from Russian fans because she blew the whistle. And there's also a gal in Florida, a long jumper named Daria Klishina, and she's received threats as well. So the whole thing is kind of ugly. It's too bad. I mean, it sounds like this Summer Games is just. I would like to see the Summer Games played exclusively in Greece. Just play it there, or have it there every year. Have an Olympic.
How's the weather in Greece?
It's pretty warm, but I mean, it's on the Mediterranean. I mean, the last Greek Olympics went pretty smoothly. That's where it started. If you build the infrastructure there, will always be there. You can upgrade it from time to time. But logistically, it's always a problem when you have it in places, third world countries like. And Brazil, really, in some respects, isn't a third world country, but it's got a lot of the problems that third world countries have.
I mean, I remember visiting Rio in 1988, and they were going through a lot of upheaval, going from the their currency was changing from the Cruzeiro to the Cruzado,
Oh,
and basically all you had to do was take the Cruzeiro and knock 2 zeros off of it. I
interesting.
mean, it was crazy. They had literally military police everywhere,
Wow.
and we were staying in a 5-star intercontinental hotel because it was a big insurance convention. And I remember the person walked us out into the cab. We're talking about in the parking lot. You know how they have
Sure.
the nice little drive-up valet thing. And as soon as we got in, it was quick. Slam the lock buttons down and roll your window up. And this is like literally in daytime in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's how dangerous it was.
I talked to a woman friend of mine years ago who went down there, and she had to have a bodyguard the entire time she was there. A guy watching out for her because there were kidnappings of foreigners. It's really a shame. And they've had some upheaval in their government. They've had some major scandals. I guess their president has been on the hot seat. So you'd think
I mean, somebody got bought off to have the Olympics there. I mean,
Yeah.
the Zika virus, the whole infrastructure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so ridiculous that you may see the end of the Olympics
Well, you
because of
could.
stuff like this.
It's sad. We don't realize how corrupt some of these sports governing bodies are. I mean, look at the major soccer for
Yeah.
years. Sepp Blattner. That guy ought to be in jail. Really.
I mean, all it takes is some bribes, and
Yeah.
it's like, what's the big deal? I'm just taking a little bit of money for this or that.
I think for all our problems here in the United States, our professional sports and our college sports are relatively clean compared to most countries. That's for sure. We always are trying to live up to a higher standard, and we do, and we should. But when you look at some of the problems elsewhere, my
Okay,
God.
here's the most important Olympic question: is Caitlyn Jenner going to go into as a woman?
She's not running it, is she? No, she's like in her 60s, right?
I don't know. You never know about that.
I mean, she looks like she could probably still compete, but I don't think so. That's a strange story. That whole story is good. I remember when Bruce Jenner was, I guess it was in 1976 in Montreal. He was amazing, just amazing. But
He was a man's man back then.
he was quite a competitor. I know that Sports Illustrated had her on the cover. That's a touchy subject that we probably shouldn't get into, but it is interesting because there are more and more now. They're gay athletes and they're transgender athletes that are competing. And as a matter of fact, one of the greatest women athletes of all time, Stella Walsh, who competed, I believe she was a U.S. Track and field or tennis player back in the 30s or 40s. Turns out that she was anatomically both a man and a woman.
Oh,
So she was born that way. So what do you do?
See, and that's not really fair in a way. Well, I guess what's fair, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
if it's not like drugs per se,
right.
that person, maybe has a little too much testosterone
Or too much of the other, thing, estrogen.
Yeah, but I mean,
you got too much of both.
But if she's competing as a woman,
Right.
and let's say in tennis or something, where the average, I'm sure. The average Olympic male tennis player, let's say, is tennis in the Olympics?
It has been.
It has been, okay.
Yeah.
Years ago, is going to be better
Mhm.
than the average woman.
Sure.
But if the woman has more testosterone,
Yeah. She's
then
going to be.
she's going to be. But the thing is, if it's natural, then I guess it's fair to compete.
Well,
like that.
there were always, contentions that Martina Navratilova was actually a man, but no, she was a woman. I mean, the thing was that she just was extremely aggressive, extremely, physically strong.
See, I don't have a problem with that because that's a natural thing. But a guy who decides, okay, I'm going to suddenly become a woman, he's still going to have big hands and all that kind of stuff. Okay,
Can make an argument for that.
To the
Yeah.
commercial break
Yeah.
here. We're talking baseball trivia. Catchers are rarely known for their speed, but which National League catcher set a record for hitting 13 triples in a season?
Wow.
That's pretty good.
That is good.
First email with correct answer. You're going to win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to that question. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Yeah, I mean, these
I remember talking to Martina Navratilova once. She's just an impressive,
physique.
aura about her. She just had this kind of, almost like a regal kind of aura. Very, very nice gal. Really nice woman. Look you in the eye, give you a straight answer, no BS.
That's good.
Yeah. U.S. is going to clean up in the Olympics, that's for sure. How about our men's basketball team?
Oh,
jeez.
back to the old dream team.
Yeah.
Of course, nowadays he's still doing a lot of good international people, but not enough on one team.
No. Not enough.
So the people going as an independent, you're right. Who?
Yeah,
who
I don't know. I don't know
It's
how
not
that
an
works.
individual type sport.
I'm not sure how that works. Yeah.
And they're Russian, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know. They could maybe be adopted by Latvia or someplace, like Lithuania. I don't know. Yeah.
Want to stay on the Olympics for a bit? Or?
Yeah. We could transition into a little baseball if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our first trivia question about baseball. Catchers are rarely known for their speed, but which National League catcher set a record for hitting 13 triples in a season? Now, I did say National League, so you can forget about all the American.
Contemporary or?
No, you're talking about the. I'll give you the year, 1966.
Oh, that's 50 years ago.
So that was just before Johnny Bench, because he was 68.
I'm drawing a blank.
You will definitely know him. He's more known for television commentary now.
Bob Uecker?
No.
No. God, I was going to say. Bob Uecker wasn't a regular, though.
I don't think Bob could spell triple. No offense, Bob. I love you.
Yeah,
I love Bob.
yeah, Bob Uecker's great.
Yeah, trying to throw a little Bob Uecker humor in it.
Yeah,
Sweet in the front row. Tim McCarver.
Tim McCarver?
Yeah, 66 Cardinals.
Wow. I never would have guessed that.
I never thought. 13 triples. I mean, how many everyday players hit 13 triples?
Well, I tell you, Tim McCarver had a star-crossed career. He won 3 pennants in his first 5 or 6 seasons, and then he played on Philadelphia, I believe, when they won in 1980.
Oh, yeah.
I think he did. So he had some great experiences. Some guys, Joe Morgan was that way. Championships just seem to fall that little guy everywhere.
So Tim, actually, I guess he got to catch Bob Gibson.
Yes, he did. It's interesting. Bob Gibson wrote a book, and I can't remember the name of it, but he talks about his relationship with Tim McCarver. And McCarver had to be real careful. Gibson was the kind of a pitcher who, don't talk to me, give me the ball, I'm going to throw it. Yeah. I'm going to just throw it. And intimidating presence, and
you never waved off you
never waved off a sign with Bob Gibson. Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, he was the kind of guy you didn't question. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, having dealt with him when he was a pitching coach for a brief time, that he wasn't somebody you crossed. You didn't want to get on his bad side. Let's put it that way. I remember one time doing an interview with him, and he says, "I'm in between jobs right now. You got a job for me?" Kind of, it's sort of sarcastic. He says, "Well, you're working. I'm not. So, what do you want to talk about?" And he was tough.
My guess is he still made pretty good money.
Yeah, he was a tough competitor. I remember once he got hit with a line drive in the leg, broke the leg, and stayed in the ball game and kept pitching for another 3 innings. I mean, that's how tough Bob Gibson was. And of course, in the '67 World Series, they're playing the Boston Red Sox, the impossible dream Red Sox, 100-1 shots with Carl Yastrzemski and Jim Lonborg. They get to Game 7, and the Red Sox fans are really excited because they're playing at home at Fenway, and this is a winner-take-all, and it's Lonborg against Gibson. Gibson not only won the game, he had a home run. And his reaction to the Red Sox fans was the day before the game. He said, "Watch what's going to happen tomorrow. You'll see it." And of course, we did. Bob Gibson was amazing. For a short period of time, he was the most dominant pitcher in the game. Even Sandy Koufax, probably a little before him. Bob Gibson. It was at the same time that Gibson's ascension really was a little after Koufax, 67, 68, were his peak years. Of course, Sandy, rode off the scene after the 66 season because of the elbow problems. Yeah. But, boy, dominant pitcher. I don't know if we have pitchers like that today. We have guys that get on a roll, but Madison Bumgarner.
I was thinking of Madison, yeah.
Or Clayton Kershaw, who right now, as we speak, and we're
Strasburg is 13-0.
Strasburg's having a great year, but Kershaw apparently has got a pinched nerve in his back, and it may cause him to miss even more time. He may have to undergo surgery, which could be disastrous for a Dodger team because they've really had some problems with their pitching staff this year. I mean, their pitching staff has been beat up.
But they're still, 5-6 games behind?
Well, last we saw, I mean, that was, as we're taping the show, things could have changed between now and then. But the team that has really surprised me, Edward, of all the teams in baseball this year, How about the Cleveland Indians?
Yeah, I was going to say the Indians.
Yeah.
Even the Cubs haven't surprised me that much.
Not
because
much.
last year, they were doing really well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, if somebody asked you to name the lineup of the Cleveland Indians, I could give you three guys. I mean, Jason Kipnis is not exactly a household name. He's their second baseman.
Is Jim Thome still playing?
No, he's long. Yeah, Juan Uribe. You remember Juan Uribe?
Oh, yeah.
He's been there. He's played with everybody. He's played with the Dodgers, the Giants, the Phillies, the Reds. I think he's played with the Reds. He's kind of a bench player, but he's a good guy to have on their team. Lenny Chisenthal. I mean, he's hitting 300. Who are these guys? Who are these guys? Carlos Santana?
Sort of like the movie Major League.
Yeah, it's a great story. It's a great thing. Cleveland is a great sports town. It really is. It just had a bad run of luck. And you think about great sports towns that have just not had a lot of good times. That's one of them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the '86 NFL John Elway 98-yard drive.
Yeah, or how about the next year? It was either the year after that or the year before that when Cleveland was on the verge of winning the game and Ernest Miner fumbled the ball at the goal line at Mile High Stadium. And then, of course, we all can go back to 1997 when they're playing the Florida Marlins and Edgar Renteria gets a base hit off Jose Mesa, wins the game, Game 7. There you go. So they've had their share of, I mean, the fact that LeBron James ended a 52-year losing streak of not getting a championship for that city, that's a great story,
I was going to say, Cleveland doesn't have a hockey team.
No, they've had hockey teams. They had a team in the old World Hockey Association, the Cleveland Barons. As a matter of fact, interesting story, the California Golden Seals were also known as the Oakland Seals. They came into the league in 1966-67. They were only here about, I think, a decade. They moved to Cleveland, and then the team was disbanded, I think, a couple years later, and most of the players went to Minnesota.
So you wonder, in Cleveland where there's lots of snow.
You'd think that'd be a good.
Yeah.
I don't understand why there are teams in Miami and in Phoenix and in Dallas and in Charlotte, and there's not one in Cleveland. That makes no sense.
I mean, I understand the warmer places like Tampa Bay because of the snowbirds.
Right.
They go, I grew up in the snow in the 30s.
But generally speaking, Edward, those teams that are in the Sun Belt are not doing well at the gate and in any way. They have not done well. I mean, a team like, say, Denver does well because Denver is a winter sport town and it's near the mountains and they've had some great hockey teams there with the Avalanche. And, the Bay Area it doesn't have a huge following for the Sharks, but it's got a good cult following. LA has had a solid kind of a cult following, but I mean, who wants to go see hockey in Phoenix or in
get out of the heat.
Or in Nashville?
Play on the Zamboni.
The Nashville Predators. It doesn't make sense. The NHL is a strange league. I don't think they're nearly as sharp in terms of marketing and in terms of product placement as the NBA, NFL, or Major League Baseball. They just are not in the same league.
I gotta be honest. I don't really care for hockey until I see fights.
I think what you have to do with hockey is you have to go to the game in person. I had never been to a hockey game in my life. I'd watched a little on television until I went to school at the University of Denver, and they had a great hockey program. They were always in the Frozen Four. And
Frozen Four, is that what they call it?
That's what they call it. The Final Four is the Frozen Four. And they were in those days they had an ABA team which was moderately successful. They didn't have an NHL team. They didn't have a baseball team. So Denver University hockey was a big deal. We packed that place with about 6,000 fans. They've won 2 championships in the last 15 years, back to back. But they didn't win any titles when I was there, but they had won 4 in the 1960s. And you go to a game, it's the one sport I think that you really is so much better to see in person. It's hard to follow the puck on television, but if you go to the game, you can see it a little bit better. And I think the end-to-end action is just mesmerizing. It's a great sport.
You follow the puck. The guys who are chasing the puck.
Yeah, there's a lot of action away from the puck though too, and I love the way they bring in the different shifts and the strategy involved and the quickness and the sudden change of momentum. There's just enough scoring to keep you interested, not too much. Basketball, sometimes there's too much. Football, there's too much standing around between plays. Baseball, of course, they're standing around all the time. Hockey, it's constant motion. It's a soccer, they're moving, but they're kind of moving sort of slowly.
Yeah.
Hockey, they are flying up and down the ice.
It's like highlight. You ever seen highlight?
I have. That is a fanatic. I would say a fanatic's sport to watch in terms of people getting into it as hardcores, but it's man, you talk about especially. Whew.
And that in Miami is big.
I saw that when I was in Baja, of all places, in Tijuana. And I could not believe what these guys wear these things called cestas.
Those are the basket.
Yeah, there's long basket things on their arms, and they catch that ball and catch it in one motion and throw it back against the wall. That's amazing. Some of these sports that we've come up with. How about lacrosse, which was originally, I guess, a Native American game and was really big, I guess, in Central America, and they would play for days, and the winners would literally put the losers in slavery. I mean, and whole cities would lose their fortunes over these games. They played for days, so the stakes were pretty high. They played for keeps.
I mean, cricket, they don't do that.
No.
They play for days sometimes. How
They
does the
do.
game go on for days? I don't understand that.
I don't know. Somebody's going to have to explain to me about cricket, because cricket is kind of loosely related to baseball, and it's also, there used to be a game called Rounders, which I guess baseball is loosely based on. It's town ball or whatever, and there's versions of it that were played in England, but it's interesting how baseball evolved. You think of all the odd little eccentricities of baseball and the weird rules. If you don't follow the game of baseball, try to explain it to somebody.
Yeah,
sometime.
well, especially the game's changed over. I mean, there was a time when nine balls used to
What's
be a
that?
block.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I don't remember
Like
that.
some of these trivia questions I have are from the late 1700s.
Well,
baseball.
Oh my gosh! Well, that's going back. I always think of baseball as really.
Bruce, did you hear that?
No, yeah, I'm serious. Yeah.
I don't think you'll get any of those
I
questions.
don't imagine that's good. Well, it used to be up until 1900, you could take a ball, and if a guy was in the base pass, you could throw it at the runner, and he'd be out.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah.
Until a few guys died.
Yeah.
Well, I was kidding about the 1700s because baseball wasn't really invented.
But the kind of game that was like baseball, I think it was called town ball, was around. Yeah. Back in the days. In the American Revolutionary days.
Let's try this again. I've got some baseball questions from the 1300s.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. We got you on that one.
There's no baseball.
There you go. Well, that's the answer.
Will there be baseball in the 22nd or 23rd centuries? So that's the big question. I think there will be.
Good question.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have an answer to that yet because we haven't gotten there.
You're right.
Here's our second trivia question. Who was the first player in history to strike out 1,500 times in a career?
Ooh. That's a good one. Yeah.
Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll come back with that answer. And more.
And more. Yeah, that's a good one. First one to strike out 1,500 times. Wow. How's the wife doing, all right?
Still looking for a job, and we're going through some remodeling. It's been kind of tough. She goes, get these guys out of my house. I didn't tell you to remodel.
Well, they always want to. My wife, she got into a bug up her butt yesterday and started doing a whole bunch of things downstairs, putting in a new art table, taking this out, get rid of this, would you? She throws stuff away all the time. It drives me crazy, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, except for when they throw away stuff that you.
Yeah, well, she usually is pretty good about that. She won't throw my stuff away, and I don't have much stuff to throw away. Most of my stuff, she made me go through all my books and figure out the ones you want to read or you want to keep around, reference books, and get rid of them. Take them to the.
Yeah, but she comes into my office though, and wants to rearrange stuff, and it's like, no, that's stay in my office.
Yeah, it was actually good. I mean, when we had that period where we were thinking about selling our house, we actually reorganized and we downsized everything. The house looks a lot nicer now. It really is a lot less cluttered.
Very good.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. We just have one more long segment.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, we can talk some more baseball if you like, or if you want to, whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Bruce McGowan. Trivia question about baseball. Who was the first player in history to strike out 1,500 times in a career?
The guy that I remember striking out the most here in the Bay Area was Bobby Bonds, but I don't think he was.
It was before him.
Yeah.
But not too much before him.
Mickey Mantle?
Yes.
Yeah, Mickey Mantle did. He was one of those guys, hit and miss. Boy, he would take a swing, and it was almost like he'd screw himself into the ground. It was like a barber's pole, spinning around. You'd watch him take a swing, and it was almost painful to watch sometimes. It really was. You think about Mickey Mantle, Edward. Think about what a great player he could have been if he'd stayed healthy.
Yeah, and didn't drink so much.
Well, who knows? How much that affected. There are a lot of guys that did drink and had long careers, but Mickey just had a series of injuries.
Especially his knee and center field of the sprinkler, right?
Well, he had that. It all started in the 1951 World Series. Joe DiMaggio was coming in on a fly ball with Mantle, and Mantle was the rookie, and he deferred at the last second to DiMaggio and ran into the sprinkler and tore up his knee. He was never quite the same after that.
The
knee, the knee was never quite the same. He was a great player. I mean, you look at the numbers he put up. I think in 1955, he had something like 54 homers, drove in something like 130 runs. He had like 354. So he was remarkable. I mean, a lot of people say he was better than Mays. I don't think he was as good an all-around player as Willie, but for a couple of years he might have been more dominant than Willie was in Willie's most dominant day. But Willie overall was the best all-around player. I mean, Willie could do everything. He could hit, throw, field, hit with power, and run. And
so who today, you're using like Mike Trout?
Who's the best all-around player today? Yeah. That's a good question. I'd have to think about that. Yeah, there's not that many players that combine speed, a great glove, power, and the ability to hit for a high average. Yeah. Not that many. And the I'd say the art of the stolen base, it's not disappeared, but it's not nearly as much of a threat as it used to be. I used to love the.
Yeah, after Ricky Henderson.
Well, and back in the '60s, it was Wills and then Lou Brock.
Yeah.
I mean, Lou Brock used to drive me nuts. He'd come up. First pitch swinging, slash an opposite field single. He'd be on first base. Next pitch, he'd be at second. By the time, the inning wasn't even over, he's ready to score a run and with one out. So you don't have those guys anymore, or at least I don't think the game has changed that much. It's just the emphasis on certain things has changed.
Well, he used to drive you crazy because he used to play against the Giants too.
Yeah, it's funny. The guys that used to kill the Giants now, I love them. I just love them because I have them in my mind's eye. Whether it's Frank Robinson or Hank Aaron or Lou Brock or Bob Gibson,
Dusty Baker.
Whenever I run into these guys, at an old timers event, I've been fortunate enough to interview all those guys over the years. I got to know Veda Pinson quite well when he was coaching. Real tragedy that he died young of I think an aneurysm. But it's just so much fun because they love telling stories. They have had that time to sit back. They haven't been bothered so much by the media. They've been away from the game. They've had a chance to take a breath and appreciate their careers. And they have all these wonderful stories to tell. And that's, as Jimmy Stewart once said, baseball is that marvelous mixture of man and memories of a bygone era.
Pretty good there.
Pretty good. Well, you're doing pretty well, too.
You got to give me a chance.
You ever hear Jimmy Stewart when he did his ode to his late beloved dog Bo on Johnny Carson? He wrote a poem about it. It was kind of a funny poem, and at the end it was so poignant that Johnny Carson had tears in his eyes. Oh, how I loved a dog named Bo.
And I guess that really was his voice, wasn't it?
Yeah. Jimmy was, and it was big. There's a big baseball fan for you. I remember in 1969, the league came out with a record. It was a commemorative 100-year celebration of professional baseball because the first team was the Cincinnati Red Stockings of 1969. I took on 1869. I'm sorry. I took on all comers and won most every game, and all of those games were on the road. Yeah. And Jimmy Stewart narrated this album, which I mean, there are no records that are made anymore. They're CDs, and you get things off the internet, and you put them on your Bluetooth, and you have a little one of those little. You see these speakers nowadays? They're like you can fit them in your hand.
Yeah,
and they
sound
I know. My wife made me get rid of the ones I had that were like 4 or 5 feet tall. She said, "We're not going to use those anymore." Yeah, weigh about 8 pounds. Yeah, we're not going to use those anymore. Get rid of them.
But they're classic.
I know.
In fact, if I remember reading correctly, back in the Civil War days, or maybe even just before, baseball was a gentleman's game.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it was maybe a little more genteel, but I don't know if baseball's ever been. I don't think you'd ever really refer to it as a gentleman's game. There's some pretty rough characters that played baseball, and then up until the 1920s, really, baseball was considered the players were sort of considered second-class citizens. The players of the old days.
I'm thinking about, like I said, before the Civil War, like when it was first getting started.
Yeah.
Maybe because it was expensive to play, you had to buy, get a glove and a bat.
Well, the first teams were not. Yeah, they were all college. I believe they were all college players. Yeah. And same thing with football. But the game generally, gradually moved into the mainstream, and the mainstream was mostly made up of blue-collar people and working-class people, and those are the people that made it popular. So, chewing tobacco and throwing at people's heads and cursing and spitting and grabbing your crotch, it all became part of the national pastime.
You're telling me that's not a gentleman's attitude?
Yeah, definitely. Good times, though. Baseball is still, I think, today as popular, if not more so, and I think because the game has reached out beyond our borders. You think about all all the countries that are playing baseball. It's not as popular as soccer or basketball, but it's close. So
Well,
certainly a lot more.
We brought in, Ichiro Suzuki
Oh,
and
yeah.
Deo Nomo.
Yeah.
And
It's very popular in Japan, that's for sure, and it's popular, to a lesser degree in Australia, and certainly in Central and South America, especially in Central America and in the islands. I mean, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and even Mexico and parts of Venezuela. I mean, it's extremely.
Oh, yeah.
You look at the biggest minority in pro sports now are Latino players. I think it's 26% are Latino players in Major League Baseball. So one of every 4 players, basically.
Well, I gotta say that part of what I love this time of year is getting into August. It's the Little League World Series.
That's always fun, yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Especially it's kind of neat because the United States gets a pool lower, and it's the United States against the world. It's whoever's going to be.
Sure.
It's usually Taiwan or Japan.
Well, and they put a lot of time and effort into those programs in those countries too. Japanese baseball is interesting though. The way they approach the game, the way they practice, the way the fans react. It's kind of like AAA baseball in terms of the quality. But you think of some of the athletes that come out of Japan. You mentioned Nomo. And Sadahara. But you mentioned, Suzuki is 41 years old, and the guy is still a great player. I remember going to the All-Star game here in San Francisco in 2007, and he hit a ball off the bricks in right field. It took a weird hop and just sort of skipped out into no man's land. And the thing about him that makes him such a great base runner, or made him a great base runner, is he knew how to, as the pros would say, cut the bag. A lot of guys take that wide turn.
Yeah.
He would take the inside turn of the inside of the bag and save himself a couple of feet on each turn. And I remember Davey Lopes, who was a great player with the Dodgers and later a coach, told me that was a real art. He said that's one of the things I tried to emphasize and teach to the younger players who were potentially good base stealers is to cut that bag. Get on the inside.
And you do it with your right foot, don't you?
I'm not sure.
Both.
Yeah, I've heard both. I don't know.
The left foot, cutting the bag.
I don't know.
This doesn't make sense.
It's one of those subtle things though that can make the difference between stealing a bag or making turning a double into a triple or a triple into an inside the park home run. But anyway, Ichiro easily beat the throw home, and it was an electrifying play. And I just thought this guy, it was at his peak of his career, obviously, and it was just to me the most exciting moment in a baseball game. And you don't see it. How many times you see it inside the park home run?
Very rare.
It's probably as rare as a no hitter. It really is. Maybe not quite, but close.
Yeah,
not too many. Yeah.
I have to look that one up.
Yeah.
And Ichiro, isn't he? He's close to 3,000 hits, isn't he?
He is. He's right on the precipice. Which
he's got to be a first-time Hall of Fame ballot.
No question. You think about it. He came over here. I believe he was 27 when he got over here. So he'd already had a great career for 7 or 8 years in Japan. All of a sudden, he comes over here and flawlessly, seamlessly steps right into the lineup. I remember covering a game up in Seattle with the Giants back in 2001 when the Mariners won 100. I think they won 116 games. And going into that clubhouse, and Ichiro was sitting there in a squat, down on his haunches, not moving, watching video. And he sat there. I went and did an interview, did a couple interviews, and I kept looking over him. He didn't move. And that was, that's not an easy thing to do. Hold that thing for 30 seconds. It was kind of a yoga squat.
Oh.
I mean, he was
so a horse.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they call it, but in any case, it's one of those things where he just had such a pliable body, and I think that's part of the reason you watch the way he contort and turn and hit the ball to the opposite field. I think it was his former manager, Lou Piniella, said, "Boy, when I can get him to learn how to turn on a ball or spend more time doing that than just going opposite field and spraying it to left, he's really going to have the defenses flummoxed because they're not going to know how to play the guy." And in fact, that they didn't.
Yeah, because he was very good at spraying the ball.
Oh, he could hit it. He was
sort of almost like a Ty Cobb. Could hit home runs.
That's a good comparison. That's almost like a tennis player taking a ball and sort of lobbing it this way or smacking it down the baseline or looping it over the net. I mean, that's the way he played. He's an amazing athlete. If you get a chance to watch him play, even today, still pretty good.
Yeah, he went from Seattle to the Yankees, right?
And now he's with the Marlins, I believe. Isn't he with the Marlins?
I think so.
Yeah.
You don't hear about him too much anymore.
Well, he's only playing, every other day. He's coming mostly off the bench. His average is well over 300, though. I think he's hitting about 330. So, I mean, the guy still can do it, but I think they use him sparingly. There's another team. We mentioned Cleveland earlier. I'm not sure if we talked about him on this show or another show, but there is another team that is slowly but surely getting into the picture. They're right now as we speak, they're the second wild card team.
The Marlins?
The Marlins, yeah. And Giancarlo Stanton got off to a horrible start, started to pick it up. I think Barry Bonds helped him out. Barry Bonds has quietly done a real nice job as a hitting coach down there in Florida, and I think it's a great place for him because he's not getting a lot of notoriety, and he likes to kind of stay out of the limelight. He's one of those few big-name athletes who does not like being in the spotlight. He just doesn't like it. I mean, he likes the moment on the field, but he doesn't like all the attendant, nonsense behind the scenes where you have to answer those questions. Barry was always that way. I have a feeling he was a little moody, to say the least, more than a little moody. But I saw him do some extraordinary things off the field that would have really surprised you. Well, one time we were in Miami with the Giants. It was in the playoffs, and on the team bus going to the ballpark, our bus got bumped by another car. The bus driver, an older Cuban gentleman, pulls over, gets out of the bus, and these two guys in the car start cursing at him and giving him all sorts of, trouble. When in fact it was their fault. Bonds is watching this, and he goes, "What the?" He goes, "I'm going to take care of this." He comes out of the bus. These guys all of a sudden they're confronted by this 6'3", 240-pound athlete, and he goes, "Let me tell you guys something. I saw who's at fault here. You guys are at fault. You're going to give this man your information. You're going to apologize to him, and then you're going to get on your way." And the older gentleman was so kind of chagrined but grateful at the same time. Bonds got back on it and patted the guy in the back, and he goes, "You don't let anybody give you any crap, And the players were all, "Hey, good for you, Barry, to do that." We're all watching this thinking, "Oh my God, Barry's going to get in a fight with these guys."
He's going to pull out a gun.
No, these two guys, they just backed off in a hurry. They backed off in a big hurry. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to our last trivia question here. Who became the youngest player in history to hit a home run?
I think I know. Excuse me. I think I know the answer.
Really? Okay.
I do.
And it's not your little league team. We are talking professional baseball here.
I was so anxious to answer that one. I got a frog in my throat.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, do you know the year?
I think so.
About what year? What do you think?
Mid-60s?
No.
Oh.
Okay. I figured, let's give you a hint on that.
All right.
This is somebody who I don't know this name.
What year?
1945.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. During the war years.
During the war years, yeah.
Okay.
Toward the end, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to come back and give you the answer to that question. Don't touch that dial.
Yes, Tony Canigliaro.
I remember him.
But I think he was the first guy under the age of 20 to hit. I think at 19 he hit over 20 homers.
That was so sad what happened to him.
Oh my God, he just had. I got to know him a little bit. He was a sportscaster, in San Francisco.
Yeah, I saw that. You ever see the picture?
Oh my God, that was horrible.
Where I was looking at his baseball card, like the year before and the year afterward. And
we should talk a little bit about Tony. See, we'll kind of mention that as an aside. That's a good story.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah. A little interlude, and then we're done.
Yeah, there we go. So we just have a short segment here.
Yeah.
Okay. Good deal. Well, this is good. I mean, you and I can have a good time with doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always do. So the other day I was last week, or earlier this week, the game, the FM station called me up, wanted me to do a little baseball talk with them. It was kind of fun.
Not as fun as this, but I understand.
Not as fun as this. Not as fun as this, no question. No, it was a little. This is always a lot more fun. More free form.
More free form,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host. Hello, Bruce McGowan. Third and final trivia question. Who became the youngest player in history to hit a home run?
Well, we talked about this off here. I thought it was Tony Canigliaro, who I believe hit his first at the age of 19 in about 1964. But you're saying it was somebody in the late stages of the World War II.
1945, he was only age 16. Played for the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Wow.
A guy named Tommy Brown.
Tommy Brown.
Don't
know that name.
We have just a quick minute. You're going to mix that
up. Yeah, Tony Canigliaro. He worked as a sportscaster here in the Bay Area, but it was so sad. I mean, he got hit in the face by a Jack Fisher fastball in 1967, the year that the Red Sox won the pennant, the 100-1 long shots, and he didn't get to play anymore. He came back and had a season or two where he was pretty good, but it just never was the same. And he had a series of, off-field. The guy was charming, likable, good-looking, but he just had some bad breaks. Then he died of a heart attack.
Yeah, because in '66 he had a really good season.
He actually didn't die of a heart attack. He had a heart condition that led to some deterioration, and he had a serious stroke right after he had auditioned for a job as a broadcaster. He would have been a very good, color analyst. But Tony Caniglaro was a terrific. But interesting that what the Red Sox did. They went out and got Hawk Harrelson to replace him, which was a pretty good move. And Hawk Harrelson had a great World Series, I believe, or at least a great season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's our thoughts for the day. There's plenty of room at the top, but no room to lie down.
You got to stand. That's right. Be a target.
That's it.
Everybody's shooting for you.
Good point.
Yeah.
And obsessed is a word the unmotivated use to describe the dedicated.
I like that one.
I got one
Who
too.
said that?
I just said it now.
Okay.
You
made it up.
I wish I could claim that one. I don't know.
That's a good one.
We'll call him Mr. Anonymous.
Okay.
Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing the sports topics from a business perspective. We're also going to be giving away some more free vacations for answering those sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. Well, we'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
There we go.
All right, my friend.
All right,
So
good job.
we will.
Oh.
So let me
See you next Tuesday.